The first thing we're going to do is to import the song from our computer into the project. We're going to do this by loading it into a sampler and dragging it from the sampler into our timeline. Now let's detect the tempo of the song and then sync the tempo of the song to match the project tempo. To do that, you go to your step sequencer and select an instrument, any instrument on your step sequencer, and then go to your transport control, right click on the tempo button and select the tap option. You listen to the song play and then you tap along.
Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Chilling with my G's and girls all around.
Sometimes getting the tempo this way might not always be enough. There are some times that there are small time offsets or decimals in the tempo of the song. So you'll notice that there will be a slight delay between the tick of the metronome and when the song is playing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the beat mapper on FL Studio to detect the tempo of the song for us automatically using the 111 that we've gotten earlier, and then we're going to fit tempo given to us by FL Studio. We're going to sync the song and the project together. After doing this, we're also going to pay attention to the lines on the timeline, making sure that the song exactly matches the lines that we have on the timeline. So you zoom into your timeline and make sure the song is positioned exactly on the lines on the timeline. It's like automatically quantizing the song. Right now, as you can see, there's an offset, so we are going to slice a part of the song and then zoom into the timeline, click, hold and drag to position the song to match the lines. Notice that I'm using the tick lines, which is assumed to be the beginning of the bar. Now notice how the tick of the metronome matches the song. Perfect. Now that we're done syncing the song to the project, it's time to create our first sample. Let's select a region like the intro. For instance, we create a loop on the intro. The intro of the song is about 4 bars, but we're going to use the last 2 bars of the song to begin with. Now we're going to create patterns to use as arrangement on the timeline. Let's create pattern 1. Patterns are created using your step sequencer. A step sequencer is the tool that contains all the instruments that you're using on the song. Alright, so the pattern here is by default 1 bar, so increase that number and then set it to 2 bars. As you can see, it's 2 bars filling up our complete loop. Alright, so now we have 2 bars and let's begin to select instruments. To select instruments, go to channels, scroll down, bass drum. You can click there to listen to the texture, or click on the arrow to change the texture you're listening to. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you do not have a MIDI controller or a piano or anything, so we're going to get things done by just clicking on the piano roll. The piano roll is also known as the MIDI editor. You can do that by right clicking on the instrument and selecting the piano roll option. So here you have it. This is your piano roll here. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can use the scroll bar to zoom in into the timeline on your piano roll. And those are your piano roll tools, and that's where you select the number of beats, bars or steps that you want to be displayed on your piano roll. The piano roll is linked to your timeline, and then what you do on the piano roll automatically reflects on your timeline. So you can see it's playing both your piano roll and the timeline simultaneously. So now let's begin to click. I'm clicking on the positions that are here that follows the song. Now let's move to the browser to select more instruments. Scroll down on your browser and then you can click on any sound to listen to the texture of the sound, and then you can click, hold and drop on your step sequencer to select the sound. So now let's switch to the piano roll view. From the bass drum to the sound you just selected. Click there and then select the DNC clap one that you just selected from your browser. Most times the instrument you have might not exactly match what you hear on the song. So you can check on the piano to check for the pitch that matches what you hear. It's very easy, just click and then drag the notes you played to the pitch that fits what you hear best. So there you have it. So now let's make the drum or snare roll that you hear at the end of the second bar. If you notice, I'm trying to find the pitch of the snare that matches the pitch of the snare used in the song best. So there it is. I click on my draw tool, select all and drag. Now let's insert more instruments to fill up the drum. I can hear some percussion sounds in the drum sample used on the song. So let's go through our browser and look for sounds that are similar to what we can hear. Click and drop. So now let's turn off the song and listen to our drums.
Cruising downtown Lagos, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me.
Okay, so I want the piano to sound rich, so I'm going to duplicate and clone. I'm going to clone and move the notes to a higher octave. Just click, hold, and drag.
Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Every day me I pray, down on my knees. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say them I find me.
So now we route the song to any track on your mixer, and then we apply our EQs to cut off the high and low end of the song.
Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say them I find me for Ghana. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say them I find me for Ghana. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say them I find me for Ghana. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say them I find me for Ghana. Every day me I pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising down to Lagos, and them I say
let's have our own remix or cover version of the instrumental. Let's spice up the drums, add a twist to the bass line. You know, let's switch it up a bit.
Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos. Say, every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man, them a say them a find me for Ghana. Every day me a pray, down on my.
Now we've added some strings to give it more life. Let's try to create an arrangement of our new composition.
Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Chilling with my G's and girls all around me like Rihanna. They feel the jam me a make, man, them a say DJ Wagner. Every day me a pray, down on my knees every time me awake. Cruising downtown Lagos, man,